So our next speaker serves as the Executive Vice President, Sales and Marketing, Commercial for ITC Paperboards and Specialty Papers Division. He's based at Hyderabad. Prabhakar, a graduate in Mechanical Engineering and an MBA from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi, has a career spanning over 3 decades in the paper and pulp industry. He currently serves as the Sustainability Co-Chair for CII Telangana. In his current role at ITC, he provides leadership to sales and marketing of paperboards, specialty papers, procurement, and supply chain verticals. In addition to the sustainable packaging vertical, he drives new technologies and products for substitution of single-use plastics. Today's topic is very interesting and extremely relevant to us over here: the paperization of packaging. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Prabhakar Venneti.
Good afternoon. It's a typical post-lunch session. We are all into almost one fortnight into the new year, and many of you have heard about the economic projections. The world trade is going down. Chinese economy is 6.5%. In real terms, the nominal growth is lower because there is a deflation in China. US will escape the recession, shallow recession in Europe. Europe will bounce back. There are interest rates, inflations, a lot of things are happening in the world. These are all the world issues at this point of time. So as professionals like us and entrepreneurs and business owners, there are a lot of geopolitical tensions going around. Red Sea crisis is something latest what you have seen. So what do you do with this? There is very little somebody like us, including large industrialists and entrepreneurs like you, because these are all issues with the sovereign governments, independent banks, and the geopolitical tensions. So anything we can do to influence, except, like as Mr. Patnaik said, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We have to be with peace with ourselves and align our business, align our responses. But there is something more, what is, calling for our attention today. That is the sustainability challenges. So this is the theme in which I would like to draw your attention. And as Mr. Patnaik said, everything is swaha and tadastu and santosham. But to get all that, what we need to do, what is the proactive action, what we can do. So these are the 5 issues I thought that I would, identify and then draw your attention. First is the net zero and the energy. All of you know today, 75% of the greenhouse gases, which are impacting the earth are coming from the energy. So there are lofty goals to move to clean fuel by 2050. All of that would need a lot of investment, new financial institutions, fiscal incentives, new age workforce, all of them have to be trained. And environmental change, climate change is here. Japan has come back. In 1 week time after the earthquake, they have started the factories. All parts of the world can do. Places like India, China, a lot of developing areas, if there is an extreme weather event, whether it is flood or extreme temperatures, can the economy bounce back? We all need to be ready for this. Circular economies, I don't need to tell, many of you know the virtues of circular economy. Otherwise, Earth has a limitation in terms of the resources. So unless we recirculate, repurpose and reuse and circulate, recycle the resources what we have, we won't be able to sustain the growths. So what is required for this is the intelligent, you need smart cities, you need intelligent systems, all of this, the progressive governments are investing. And the most important thing is the regenerative ecosystems. The earth is losing very fast the biodiversity. So a lot of industries are responsible for it. All of them are getting responsive, more and more responsible about the, impacting the ecosystems, especially, pulp and paper industry has a big bearing, which I will cover in my subsequent slides. And finally, the social inclusiveness. Now, any growth, all of us want growth quarter on quarter, both growth and profit we want. But then as long as it is not inclusive, it's not going to be sustainable. One major reason is the climate change is not going to impact all the strata of the society equally. There are vulnerable sections of the society who are going to be impacted. And as again, drawing on Mr. Patnaik, if you can't keep santosham for everybody, this is going to bite us. So as I move, all of us, many of us in this room are packaging related to somewhere or other to packaging industry. So is the packaging adding to it? So what is the packaging? packaging is a single-use item. Packaging's life gets over as soon as the product reaches the consumer, and consumer opens the packaging and consumes the product. I mean, you don't keep it. For 95% of the time, that packaging is gone. So what are the most important characteristics of the packaging? It has to be from a renewable source. It has to be recyclable, and circularity has to be there. And it has to compost. It should have compostability. And finally, it should be less energy consumption item. So these are the things. And now what is happening? Where is the wood coming from? Are the natural forests going? Or the forest lands are getting converted into plantations? What is the industry doing? Is plastic responsible, or all other industries are responsible? Definitely, there is single-use plastic, which is light in weight, which has got a high litter potential, is going all around and then polluting all our water bodies and the cities. So what is the consumer perception? So why is the consumer perception so important? We talked about the brands, need to cater to. What do the brands do? Brands look at the consumers. They see what the consumers are saying. If you look at most of the growth markets, paper, flexible paper, and glass, these are the three categories which are coming in the top. So brands would listen to the consumers, and brands will try and communicate this message to the consumers. So sustainability communication is going to be the intrinsic part of the brand communication in the times to come. So how do we see? What is the paperization drivers? Why did I say paperization? Because many of you recall COP28 just got concluded in December in Dubai. I mean, Dubai, which is a major oil-producing economy. What did they say in COP28? They said it is the beginning of the end of the fossil era. This is a declaration which has been passed. So COP29 is going to be in Canada, in Ottawa, in 24. That is completely an intergovernmental document is being prepared to globally monitor the plastic waste and control the plastic consumption. So the way we see paperization is that the lessons, whatever is coming out of these intergovernmental conferences, what are they saying? They're saying you reduce the usage, you try and reuse and refill, and then recyclability is an important attribute. Compostability, mind you, from the bio-based feedstock is going to be extremely challenging. Many of you are aware that the Indian government Niti Aayog document or any other policy document where you see arable land in India is first reserved for food, then reserved for feed. Now it is for ethanol blending, it is for fuel. Fourth, only fiber. So the chances of getting fiber out of the biostock going to be extremely remote, and some of these technologies are going to be very expensive. So can paper morph into plastic and then can provide solution? That is where the quest is. And of course, there are complex solutions like bamboo and seaweed. Companies like us and sustainability conscious companies like us are partnering with the startups, and then we are giving support to all of them to see whether these new materials are going to work, but it is going to be a long haul. So right now the focus is that how the paper is going to play the role of plastic to some extent mitigate the over usage of plastic. So you see what are the key drivers for this? The regulation, of course, is going to be an important driver. Many of you are aware that the single-use plastic is banned, and including the type of film wrappings, what you do on the sweet boxes, all of them stand banned. All other types of plastics, whether mono or multi or it is extrusions, all of them have got EPR responsibility. So their usage is going to be expensive. Year on year, you have to extended producer responsibility. This is going to cost you. And this is how the governments everywhere, all over the world, EPR is a very popular tool where the governments are using. Social activism, social media, NGOs, regular media, all of them are influencing the consumers, and consumers are going to ask the brands, what are they going to do about the plastic pollution. So this is how we see the paperization of packaging. Right now, the emulsion-coated papers are getting popular. So these are the papers which, for a fraction of coating, very minimal coating, they will give plastic-like properties. We see three horizons for this. The horizon one is where we are right now. We are able to provide papers which have got heat seal and the barrier properties for oil and grease resistance, and they give water resistance. Yes, this is going to be a long haul. And then horizon 3 is where we think that a lot of leading research laboratories and the chemical companies are working. And there will be a day when from the secondary packaging, paper will graduate to primary packaging, and then we will get the capability to pack spices, snacks, tea, and other aggressive foods. So this is how we see, I had a packaging vertical called sustainable packaging. Under this is how we see. One is the barrier products. Barrier products typically substitute whatever the plastics which are providing barrier functionality today. So these are all the coating products. What I talked is the emulsion. Solid boards. Solid boards, it is not that we are going to, paper board is going to take every solid board. This is what you've seen there is an indoor advertisement. So this is where paper can last. Outside billboard, paper probably cannot last. So this is not to say that the paper will come and take over plastic. It's not possible. Plastic is a wonder material. It has got a lot of properties which paper may not be able to do. The idea is to take paper as sustainable material to the extent possible and the usages, and then increase the usage of paper widely. And the third, of course, is flexible paper. Many of you are, in the films converting business have already ventured into flexible paper. I think this is a trend which is going to stay. And finally, molded fiber packaging, which ITC as a company, we made first major investment in molded fiber. This will take away, a lot of rigid plastic and the plastic which is not getting recirculated. In fact, an interesting statistic in 2022, the numbers what I've shown is the share of packaging, plastic packaging. Only 14% of the plastic is getting recycled all over the world. So that's a very low number. And then out of that 7 or 8% plastic is being used for a value far lower than the original value of the plastic. That shows some of the limitations. And then, of course, many of you are aware that the recycling rates of the paper industry are very, very high. Now, how do we do in India? What do we do? What sort of business we are involved in? How do we get the fiber? All over the world, there are different models. There are softwood baskets. There are hardwood baskets. So the softwood is in Nordic regions, in Europe and in Northern America, mostly in Canada. And the hardwoods are in Latin America, in Chile, Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay. And there is wood in Russia, very difficult to access. Then there are Pacific Rim countries, Australia, Vietnam, Indonesia. All of them have. So many of them have got, all of them, the Nordic countries and North America have got a forestry policy. They all do, forests are harvested there, but then there is a policy, there is a regulator, and they do it. In other countries, they have cleared a lot of forests and they have done the plantations. Today, they all say that they will give wood from the plantation. But in India, government of India very explicitly banned in 1988 that the no forest wood to be used for any industrial raw material. So how do we do? This is a tough industry in India. We give seedlings and samplings to the farmers and we wait for 4 or 5 years for them to grow the tree. So we communicate the benefits of growing this and then at the same time bridge the short-term needs of the farmers by cross-cultivation, and then we wait patiently for 4 years and get our raw material. So this is a cycle through which we go. And a lot of livelihoods are being created. So Indian wood or the Indian paper industry does not cause any deforestation. Every paper, when you hold the paper in your hand, you see the resonance of the farmer. It is coming from the small and marginal farmers. It is coming from the land, which is a degraded land. It is coming from the place where there is a lot of rural employment is being generated. That is the story of the wood as far as Indian paper industry is concerned. Let me tell you, today some of you may be exporting cartons to Europe, and we do export our paper boards to Europe. So there's a lot of changes in the regulations around the world. So EUTR is called European Union Timber Regulations have changed to EUDR. EUDR means European Union Deforestation Regulations. So for every ton of paper or every kilo of paper I invoice, I have to give them the coordinates, geographical coordinates of the place from where the wood is coming. This is how they are going to plug the illegal logging. So the wood has to be legal wood has to be correct wood and ethical wood. That is one very important thing. Yesterday, our export team has got a large inquiry for a carton, bidding the paper board for carton. This is what the brand is saying. The brand is saying, this brand packaging will be deforestation and the forest degradation free with a cutoff date of 1994. The brand will not source packaging from ancient and endangered forests, endangered species and habitat, illegal logging or other controversial sources, including Canadian and Russian boreal forests, coastal temperate rainforests, tropical forests, and peatlands of Indonesia, the Amazon, and West Africa. So this is what the brand is saying. This is a very prestigious, iconic brand. And we are bidding for this brand. And of course, this is the time they're all asking that the Indian converters would be interested. In fact, some of the European companies we talked to about taking the Indian converters to Europe. These are the things we are talking in the light of the sustainability pressures what we have. I also want to draw your attention. Look at this graph. This graph here is 1970, Indian paper industry is 85% wood. In 2020 or 2022, it is only 18% wood-based. So 76% of the Indian paper industry is based on the waste paper. This is the virtue of paper. So a lot of this waste paper is generated in India, our recycling rates. I will show you in one of the next slides how this is. And this is another packaging material carbon intensity. This is not to put any other packaging substrate down, but then plastic has got a very high carbon intensity right from the feedstock extraction to the refining to the processing. Even within paper, there are differences in carbon emission between the virgin boards and the recycled boards. So why is the paper? Why do you need to use paper as a preferred substrate for packaging? When you are holding paper in your hand, you are holding a carbon sink. All brands all over the world want the packaging material which trap carbon. So you are holding a carbon sink in your hand. And then it is a plastic regulatory compliances, what I talked about. Now looking at the recycled and the virgin, what is the virtuous cycle of this? This is a wonderful cycle true of paper industry. So if you look at the percentage of virgin versus recycled, as the countries, the per capita income go, there is more and more virgin board they use because more and more usages are for food serve, food packaging, high-end graphic packaging, for all of that you need virgin boards. But then every consuming city gives you waste paper. So a recycled board machine is required on the outskirts of every city. So as the city consumes more, the waste will come out and there has to be a mill to process it. So there is a dynamic balance between the virgin boards and the recycled boards. In India, we use the 18% I said of 20 million tons is 3.6 million tons is what we use the virgin fiber. This is only for 40% of our paper and about 1.3 million tons of the virgin board. So this 1.3 million tons of virgin board is required to perpetuate your 13 million tons of recycled paper. So India collects about 12 to 13 million tons of waste paper locally. Our recycling rates are about 50-55%. And then we do import 6 million tons of waste paper from abroad, not required. Because all this waste paper is the municipal waste of United States, the municipal waste of European countries. It comes with a lot of avoidable contamination. It will come and spoil your water bodies, spoil your cities. So we have to increase our recycling rates, and there is a great balance between the virgin board and the recycled board. And recycled consumes half the carbon compared to the virgin. And in virgin boards, there is 50% bioenergy we use. And then all the paper industry players in India are making investments for energy conservation and more renewable energy sources, whether it is solar or bioenergy and all other forms of energy. At ITC, we run, under our division, we run a 43 megawatt wind power mill, in different parts, and then we wheel the power to all our businesses across. So the energy, the sustainable wood and the low energy intensity and the plastic substitution properties of paper, these are the key important takeaways how the future and the emerging paradigm is going to look. So this is some of the work what ITC did. I don't need to spend time on this. Many of you are ITC customers and then you all know. We have got many firsts in India. Is a company which is carbon positive, water positive and solid waste positive. And most of our units are leaders, whether it is carbon, whether it is water, or in terms of recirculating the solid waste. So this is what I wanted to appeal to the print and conversion industry. You're all here. We all, grew with you. And you grew in the last 20, 25 years. We've introduced the virgin boards to the Indian paper industry. Now, this is how the emissions are measured. This, all of you will get familiar with this terminology. So what you use in your factory is called scope 1. And the upstream energy, what you use is called scope 2. And then what you bring in, your suppliers will bring into your factory is called scope 3. So my appeal to all of you is scope 1, you please explore. Solar energy has become very competitive now. You will get power for 2 to 3 rupees with your investment. If you have a great rooftop on your factory, put solar, you will get a payback in 2 to 3 years. I am not an expert in this, but there are enough agencies which can guide you. If you don't have a rooftop, you go outside the city, have 2 acres of land, invest this, you will get the power. You can bank the power and you can get. What is the advantage of it? Today, the packaging billboard is getting very competitive because brands want more and more information. Then the regulators want to put more and more information. MRP, expiry dates, certificates, regulations, all of them. Now, as a converter, you want to put something about you. When you do your scope 1 solar power, you want to get noticed. All of them will get into QR code. But in the QR code, you can mention what you are doing in your factory. If your factory is low carbon factory, or you are carbon neutral, and you source a paper which is carbon neutral, the brand has to get take notice of you. So this is how you will get salience. This is how you will get access to the global markets. This is going to happen now. This will not, in the next 5 years, we see dramatic changes. And so we are very proud of our sustainability credentials. It is not only me as ITC. I think most of the Indian industry sources their wood from very, very sustainable agroforestry, which has got a lot of social equity. Finally, we cannot do it alone. We all need to work together because the paper and board manufacturers and the printer converters have to work together. The reason is very simple. I produce a paper. Paper behaves like plastic, but then I cannot, you have to print, score, and then fold it, and then it has to run on high-speed packaging lines. Now, the packaging lines for plastic are not going to run on the paper. So there is a lot of work in terms of molding the ecosystem, the packaging, the conversion and the packaging ecosystem of this country. So I solicit and urge on all of you to come partner with us, the Indian paper industry, in creating plastic substitution solutions. Finally, I end this with what ITC Chairman Mr. Puri said very aptly. He said sustainability and inclusivity have to be core of the business strategies, without which we won't be able to win the next round of our growths are not going to come. So this is I request all of you to leverage this emerging paradigm, the paperization of packaging, and we look forward to working with you closely.
Thank you, Mr. Venneti. That was brilliant. May I request Sanjay Patel to please come up on stage. But before that, may I also request ITC and other paper mills across the country, just as there's paperization of packaging, there's depaperization of commercial. So we're very happy to jump onto the bandwagon of packaging because boards, we feel that the future is great. But the same way we see that there's a lot of commercial printing which is vanishing because the big brands, they are saying that it's good for the earth that we are not using paper. And like, if you buy a Mercedes-Benz today, you don't get a brochure. Right. You get a silly iPad and they tell you to click some buttons over there.
Right.
So I think the responsibility of paper manufacturers is to create awareness, just like how you're doing that board is good for packaging, paper is good for commercial also.
Sure.
I think that's very, very important. So
sure.
Please take that. The BMP and the AFMP are willing to partner with you. Sanjay Patel, please. Yeah. Give Mr. Prabhakar the memento.
Thank you, Mr. Prabhakar. I really appreciate it. It's a great opportunity for us to deliver this message. Thank you.
A big round of applause, please.
Thank you, BMPA, for this great opportunity.
Thank you, Prabhakar ji. Thank you, Sanjay bhai.